with them 2 years ago. That's why I locked arms with them 2 years ago. Mary, can you forward the slide for me? That's why 2 years ago, I saw this mission statement and I really, really resonated with it. And I decided to become a coach and a trainer, and I licensed to use their intellectual property so I can bring this message of connecting and empowering humanity to the world. Our mantra really is make people matter because sales is all about people. And everything is about people, relationships, everything. So that's why I decided to join this company. And what I'm going to share with you is the system in which that we use to connect humanity. Next slide, please. And the system is called BANK, B-A-N-K. And it really is an acronym for, next slide, for the 4 personalities called Blueprint. Mary, can you do that? It's actually personality science, and it stands for Blueprint, Action, Nurturing, and Knowledge. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of a taste of what each one, what these are value-based, and it will let you know how to communicate with someone. See, we operate out of the platinum rule. Treat others how they want to be treated instead of the golden rule, which is treat others how we want to be treated, because everyone is different. Everyone has a bank code, and there are 24 bank codes, and there's a combination of them. So I'm just going to go through just give you a tidbit, a snapshot of what each of the characters value. So Blueprint is blue because they're a little bit kind of cool to approach. They're not as approachable as some of the other codes. Blueprints, if you think of a box, they're inside the box. They love to be inside the box. They like to follow rules. They love stability. They like planning. So if you're doing business or if you're wanting to date someone, make sure that you show stability and that you're responsible. So if your love interest is a blueprint, these are some of the values you'd want to bring to the table if you want a second date. Okay. So next slide, please. The actions are the outside the box. They're like boxes. Like, you're not the boss of me. And they love freedom. They love spontaneity. They love opportunity. So if you understand the values of the characters and you're having conversations with folks, you can kind of listen for the magic words that actually show which character they are and what values they resonate with. Next one is nurturing. The N is nurturing, and they recycle the box. These folks love hugs. They love relationships, and they are all about authenticity. If you're dating someone or you're doing business with someone and because they feel into decisions, they feel into their behavior. If they feel that you're not authentic, and they could smell BS a mile away, and they're very much into personal growth. And most of the people, I believe, I haven't coded everyone in our Rotary Club yet, but the majority of the folks that are here are very much nurturing, and that's why they lead and they contribute, because it's all about contribution and community and charity for the nurturings. And then for the knowledge folks, they are usually the smartest people in the room. Without the knowledge folks, we probably wouldn't even have a box. They engineer the box. They value learning. They value self-mastery. They value competence and accuracy. So if you're doing business, or if you're having a conversation with someone and they're asking a lot of questions, chances are you're probably having a conversation with a knowledge person. All right, so that's just a snapshot of the 4 character codes. So based on what I just shared, what do you think your bank code is? Go ahead and put it in the chat box. B, blueprint, inside the box, action, outside the box, or what box? Nurturing, I love you, give me hugs, or knowledge, give me some more data. What's it all out, So go ahead and put it in the chat box. What is your code? Next, please. It's so helpful to know what bank code is for the people that you're doing business with, your family, your children, your spouse, the people, your coworkers, because it's not personal, it's personality. So it's really about knowing yourself and knowing who you're having conversations with. So go ahead and continue to put in who do you think you are. So thank you for your attention. Thank you so much for allowing me to give you this little snapshot of what I do. If you really want to know what your bank code is, you can go to jennykcampbell.com. It's a free report you'll receive when you put those cards in order of what matters to you the most. Just read the information on it and put it in the order that is most like you to the least like you. That way you get to know yourself better. It allows other people to know you better, and it saves everybody some time to try to guess what you are. Thank you so much. And this is Jenny K. Campbell signing off. See you next time.
Wow, thank you, Jenny. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
for sharing with us today. And if any of you want to reach out to Jenny, be sure to send her an email. Jenny, maybe put your email address in the chat box for us.
Okay, thank you. I will.
Great, thank you, Jenny. And fun fact is, Mary and I did this, I think it was about a year ago, and Mary and I are the exact same. So just a fun fact between Mary and I. Next, I'd like to talk a little bit about pearls. I talked about it last week, but if you're ready to enhance your leadership skills, consider taking a pearls class. They are produced by our district, all on Zoom, just like this. And you can learn a lot about practical training for Rotary. The next one is Saturday, January 21st, 2023. And the introductory pearls is fundamentals of leadership, leading a meeting, Rotary, your club and you, effective communication, and public speaking essentials. And if you like pearls, we have master pearls classes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I've completed all of them, as have Mary, Sunny, Bob, and many others in our club. It's a wonderful opportunity to learn, as well as get to know other members in our district from other clubs. You can sign up on the district website, 5150.com. It is $25, but the club will reimburse all members for this cost. Holiday photos are coming. I have not received any yet, but please share some. You're welcome to share your holiday photos, or you can share photos from our holiday party, and I will share them with the club at our next meeting. My email is rotarywiseman@gmail.com. District conference is coming up April 27th to 30th, 2023 in Monterey, California. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment, and Mary Lou's going to talk a little bit about the district conference and share a slide with you.
Thank you, President Christopher. Yes, I recommend that everybody in this club attend the 2023 District 5150 conference. And the reason we want to do this is because this is a day of celebration for all of the accomplishments from our club. This is when the district governor will be awarding our club all of the best in what we do within our club, and also to celebrate the end of the year with Christopher. So this is in Monterey, California, April 28th through the 30th. The registration is at rotary5150.org, and I'll put that into the chat box. And not only will we be doing a lot of celebration, there's a weekend of hands-on learning, fun, relaxation. Also, for all of you golfers out there, we do have a golf tournament going on, which is exciting. So if you want to pair up with somebody to play some golf, make sure you check out the website and register soon. In addition to golf, we also have a Monterey movie tour available. And this is just extra fun that you can add to your weekend away from San Francisco or wherever you live. And that'll do it, Christopher.
Great. Thank you, Mary. I think it'll be a lot of fun. And Monterey is always a beautiful place to visit. If you haven't been in a long time or ever, this is a great opportunity to visit Monterey. All right, I'm going back to the slides. All right, on the horizon, so what's coming up? Have you looked at our website recently? I've been doing this every week, just so people are aware. Take a picture of this with your phone if you like. You can do a screenshot, but just so you remember what's going on. But it is also on our club website. January 17th, no club meeting. We'll be having our board meeting. The reason for this is we did not have a board meeting the month of December. So to pace it out a little bit, they're about 6 weeks apart instead of 8 weeks apart. So any of you are welcome to visit. Just send me an email, rotarywiseman@gmail.com. And I'll send you the Zoom information. It is from 4 to 5:30. January 21st, we'll be having our service project, Rotary Meadow Restoration. I'm hoping for a beautiful day. I plan to be there, and it's a wonderful way just to see Mount Sutro and some of the great work that our club's done in the city. January 26th, we'll be having a partner event. The Oakland No. 3 Club is hosting a Lunar New Year dinner, and we've organized a table. It's $75 a person. You can pay directly to Oakland No. 3. It's at the Pianist Seafood Restaurant in Oakland. Mary and I did dine here when we did a service project in Oakland, and the food is excellent. And it's $75 for a 10-course dinner, which is a great value. For those who enjoy alcohol, you can bring your own favorite beer and wine. There is no corkage. That's almost unheard of in Northern California. So wonderful opportunity. And we'll have a table, we can hang out, have a good time, and celebrate the Lunar New Year with our friends in Oakland. You can register, but please let Alicia Marfashia or myself know. I just want to make sure that we all end up at the correct table. January 28th, 2023 will be a lot of fun, a ping pong social. I am not very good at ping pong, but I do have fun. And please register for that. That will be our club social for January. So 2 great opportunities to get together and be social, and 1 service project for this month. Just mind you, I went backwards. District conference is still happening. Also, January 24th, 2023, we'll be having our Rotary Luncheon. Russell Lowe in the spirit of the early Chinese American pioneers to hear about a family story. And this will be in person and on Zoom. Highly recommend all of you attend. Emergency Services Day is February 27, 2023. I'll let Bob Herman say a couple words about Emergency Services Day.
Hi there, everyone. This is Bob Herman. I'm one of the co-chairs along with Matt Matson from the Salvation Army. And I am pleased to announce, yes, another Emergency Services Day. We've been able to start them up again, last year being the first since COVID, and now this will be our second. And this year, we are having it at the Antique Car Museum on Washington and Van Ness. And so we will be able to see the antique cars, we'll be able to mingle with the politicians of the city and the servicemen and women who have provided emergency services work to each of us. If you look in the chat, I'm just going to send out the registration link. There also is opportunity to do sponsorship. Sponsorships will help offset some of the costs because it's going to be a little bit more costly to pivot to a different location this year. And the thing that I want to impress upon everyone is this year, Emergency Services Day is on Monday, February 27th. Same time, you can get there at 11:30. You can mingle amongst the cars, and the program will start promptly at 12:15 because we're going to have to serve the food before we start the program. So it's a little different structure, but it'll be a wonderful time. And a lot of work has gone on by the 15 folks in the committee. And I'm pleased to say we are well ahead of where we were last year doing this. And it's been really great. Thank you, President Christopher.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you to you, Matt, and the entire committee for your work on this. This is one of our club's signature projects, so I hope to see all of you there. It will be wonderful, and you can sign up now. It's already on our club calendar. Yep. If you're looking for a committee, you can still join this year. I'm going to be doing this every week now, all of our upcoming committee meetings. January 10th will be RCAT from 5 to 6. January 11th, Bob and Matt's committee, Emergency Services Day from 6 to 7. Membership on January 18th, 12 to 12:45. Also that day, there'll be another emergency services day, 6 to 7. January 23rd, we'll have our DEI committee from 5 to 6. At the same day and time, also vocational services 5 to 6. And then January 25th, development from 12 to 1. So I highly recommend a committee. You'll get to know people. It's a lot of fun, and you'll do a great service to our club and all of the members. And all of these meetings do take place on Zoom. 20 for 20. It's time to celebrate your wins. So please raise your hand or let me know in the chat box if you'd like to share a 20 for 20 today. I'm going to stop sharing my screen too so I can see everybody. Any 20 for 20s? All right, Bob Herman.
I'll do a 20 for 20, and that is to be thankful and grateful for all the Rotarians who have been doing service projects throughout the rainy period. I think that everyone's commitment to the club and to the work we do in our city is not to go without recognition. So thank you to our club for the support and care you give to each other.
Thank you, Bob. Rick, you have your hand raised. Rick Carroll.
I do. Yeah, I wanted to, after a couple of years of dead zone because of COVID, my organization, Heroes Voices, is presenting another musical event. Rotary has been very involved in the past. This will be on the 26th of March, and more details to come, but it is in honor of our veterans. Some veterans will be featured, and it'll be a wonderful musical performance at the chapel of Calvary Presbyterian Church, which is where we did our last one, which was at that time a part of our National Veterans Poetry Contest. So more details to come on, and we'd love to have some volunteers and whatnot involved. And I'll let you know as we get solidified, March 26th.
Thank you, Rick. And we hope to have some more of your wonderful singing at a future club meeting as well. Mary Lou, you have the floor.
Hi, I'd like to do a 20 for 20 to say happy birthday to past President Stephanie Schmeltz. And then also for having the best sister in the world, Jenny Campbell.
Oh, that's a nice 20 for 20. Mary and Jenny are the only two sisters in our club. So that's a fun fact. But if anyone has a sibling, all siblings are welcome. Dan Jornstein, you have your hand raised.
Oh, thank you, Christopher. Dan Jorenstead here. And I just wanted to make sure and once again remind you of the Creating Your Legacy workshop that we have coming up on February the 4th, Saturday morning, 9 until 12 at the Rotary Terrace in South San Francisco. We'll have some very wonderful motivational speakers about why one should consider making a bequest to the Rotary Foundation. We'll have a panel discussion with some technical experts. We will have breakout sessions. It's going to be a great morning. I hope that you will go to the District 5150 website and register to attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you for the great work you're doing with District 5150.
Thank you.
All right, any other hands raised? All right, seeing no more hands, I think all of you are very excited for our keynote presenter today. So I'm going to share my screen again. All right, Rick Carroll is going to introduce our speaker today.
It is my distinct pleasure to introduce Michael. Michael is a dear friend. I'll give my personal little take on Michael after I go through his extraordinary resume. I've known Michael since he moved here to take over the music direction of Calvary Presbyterian Church in 2015, because I sing in that church along with Ann Doherty. Michael has enjoyed the privilege of a multifaceted career in music for 3 decades now as a conductor, pianist, organist, oboist, singer, and composer. The New York Times has said of his work, first-rate conducting, and of his compositions, tuneful, handsome, that goes without saying, ambitious, piquant, and surprising. Since 2015, he's been the Director of Music Ministries at Calvary Presbyterian Church in Pacific Heights, where he oversees the highly regarded diverse musical program. And it is an extraordinary program for those of you who have never come to any of our performances. Prior to coming to San Francisco, Michael worked for 2 decades as a freelance musician in New York City, where he conducted choral societies, headed church music programs, taught high school choirs, sang in professional choral ensembles, music directed for theater and numerous other gigs and projects. He's prepared choirs for over 15 Carnegie Hall appearances, along with numerous performances at prestigious venues, including Lincoln Center, jazz at Lincoln Center, the Cathedral of St. John the Divine in New York, Smetana Hall in Prague, St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, the Caramore Festival, the Verbier Festival in Switzerland, and for several on and off Broadway productions. He holds an undergraduate degree in composition from the James Madison University in Virginia and completed his graduate studies in choral conducting at the Westminster Choir College, where he was a student of the renowned conductor Joseph Flemmerfeld. And his compositions are published by the C. Music Publishing Company. And on a personal note, most of you know that my career has been for decades in classical music primarily. And I have been involved all over the world, Europe, America, Asia, and whatnot, and have worked with some of the great folks in music, conductors and directors and singers and whatnot. Michael is one of the most extraordinary musicians that I have ever encountered. He's a stunning pianist, a wonderful conductor that understands the instrument that he has. He chooses wonderful music for the ensemble that he has, and he's a great composer. He did a thing. He wrote a piece 10, 12 years ago called the Appalachian Requiem, which we got to perform here. He wrote it in New York and then reorchestrated it, and we performed it several years ago. And it's a breathtaking piece of music. It's a stunning piece of music. And he just writes stuff. He wrote this Christmas carol that we've done several times. I can't get through it without weeping. It is so beautiful. So and to top it all off, he is my next door neighbor. I know that he and his husband Tony were unhappy in the place they were living, and I live in a 4-unit building here. And one of the units opened up, and I said, "Hey guys, come look at this place. I know you're unhappy where you're at." And he moved in. So Michael is now my next door neighbor. So it is my absolute joy and privilege and delight to introduce Michael Conley.
There, I need to unmute myself. Thank you, Rick. Wow, what an introduction. I should just let you speak and I'll go have lunch. That's great. Thank you. Yes, Rick is basically right through this wall here. So hi, Rick. And hello, Rotarians. It's really nice to be with you today. True confessions, I hate speaking on Zoom because it feels like you're talking to empty space, like somewhere out marooned between Mars and Jupiter, but I know you're there, so I will try to get over that. My father was a Rotary member for a while when I was growing up in Virginia, and my brother got to go on a foreign exchange trip through the Rotary to France. So I have some connection to Rotary in my life. But it's an honor to be with you, and I will ask your forgiveness in advance. I fear that what I'm going to say today is going to come across a tad bit preachy. But as going on 33 years now as a church musician, I have listened to a lot of sermons. So I think at this point that speaking style is baked in the cake. And it's just part of who I am. So, and I'm also passionate about what I want to talk to you about. So it may come across a tiny bit preachy. Just take that with a grain of salt if it does. because like I said, I care a lot about this subject, so I will try to impart a little bit of my passion and what I want to talk about, and that is about the arts generally, and music a little more specifically, but it's more about the arts in general. All art is instrumental in expanding our minds and most importantly in unlocking empathy and emotion. And music itself has a unique power to connect us to each other and to probe the broken places inside us and facilitate grieving and healing and ultimately joy. So I want to talk a little today about why art generally and music specifically is so crucial to our well-being as individuals, but also to our success as a society. And I want to start off by asking you a few questions for you to ponder. And I want to just take a moment and think about each one on your own. If you want to answer or put a little comment in the chat box, if something sparks something specific for you, that would be great. You can interact a little bit that way. So the first one is this. Think of a time when music played an important role in a significant moment in your life. So a time when music played an important role in some significant moment in your life. Just give you a second to think about that. Every day, that's great. Another question, try to think of a specific memory that comes into your brain when you hear a specific piece of music. I have an example, and it is a really goofy song by John Denver called Grandma's Feather Bed. I don't know if any of you ever heard that song, but my parents had a John Denver 8-track tape that they used to play in the car on road trips. And every time I hear that John Denver song, I immediately picture myself, I am in that car again on a road trip as a little kid with my parents. John Lennon and Imagine, yeah. A lot of references to funerals here. That's a place where music tends to be really important to us, yeah. Okay, another one. So think of a moment in a movie where the music is memorable and moving, and then try to imagine that same scene with no music. Oh, the start of Indiana Jones, yeah. Schindler's List, for sure, that amazing violin solo. The one I always think of is E.T. The entire last 25 minutes of that movie there's no dialogue. There are a couple brief little spurts of spoken word, but all the rest of it is imagery and music. And trying to imagine that movie being so emotional and successful without such a great score, you can't do it. Grease, Sophie's Choice, Clockwork Orange. A lot of good ones here. Oh, The Wizard of Oz, for sure. Yeah. So now a lot of you already put some wedding memories here and some funeral things. Try to imagine a wedding or a graduation or a funeral with no music. I've been to some weddings and funerals with no music, and I can tell you they were pretty dreadful. And we've just all been through a time, this pandemic, where many of us were stuck at home for long periods of time, not seeing other people for long periods of time. And I want you to imagine going through that same shelter-in-place time, lockdown time, with no stereo, with no books, with no music on the radio or streaming devices, with the only TV being news programs, nothing to stream, nothing to binge, no music to listen to. Imagine how different your life would be if you had had to experience a time like that with no art. Because that's what art is. All of those things are art. What you read, what you listen to, what you watch, these were all created by artists. And it impacts our lives, I think, many times in ways that we don't really acknowledge on a day-to-day basis. So back to my first question to you all. Think of a time when music played an important role in a significant moment in your life. And I'm going to share a personal example of this because there's a very important connection between how our memory functions and often how music interacts with those memories. So here's a very personal one for me. Let's see what year it was. In January of 1999, I was at the tail end of a divorce. I had married a woman who I met in college, and at that point we had been together for 7 years, and the marriage was basically over, everything except the paperwork at that point. We'd been separated for a few months, and I found myself in a rental car driving through the desert of New Mexico because I had just been to a wedding of a friend in Texas over New Year's Eve, and I was living in New York City at the time, and since I was going all the way to Texas for this wedding, I decided to visit some family, and then I decided to take a little vacation time and see the Grand Canyon because I'd never been, and I was going to end up in Las Vegas. So I'm at the end of a divorce. I'm alone for quite a few days, and I'm driving through the desert, and I'm listening to NPR, as I am prone to do, and they were playing some folk music program, so I was probably only half listening because, to be honest, folk music is not always my favorite genre. But while I'm driving along, all of a sudden this really beautiful Judy Collins song comes on, and it was from, at the time, a very recent live performance that she had done. And I'm listening to this song, and all of a sudden I have to pull over to the side of the road and just stop driving. And I'm just listening to this song because it just blew me away. It was so beautiful. And then I started crying, and I was just weeping on the side of the road in the middle of the New Mexico desert in my car, listening to Judy Collins sing this beautiful song. And it's probably true that any number of other songs could have created the same emotional response, but it just happened to be that song in that moment that I needed to hear. And it unlocked something in my emotions that desperately needed unlocking. And, it was about the divorce and about all the sadness around that and other things, but it was also about the fact that I was very much on the verge of coming out as gay, but I didn't know that yet. And this song was just unlocking this whole universe of emotion inside me that needed to be unlocked. The song, by the way, is called The Fallow Way. And Rick, who introduced me, sang a very beautiful version of it while we were on lockdown, virtually. You might be able to find it on YouTube somewhere, I think. It's a great song. I highly recommend it. But the point is not so much about that song. It's just about the fact that now, whenever I hear that song, I'm immediately transported to that moment in my life, and I connect with the emotions I was going through. It brings up important memories. It's a fulcrum moment in my life that wouldn't exist if it weren't for that song. The art in that song, the poetry and the music are now imprinted in a place in my memory, in my brain, that is just a part of the fabric of my life. And that's what great art does for us. It can unlock important moments. It creates fulcrum moments in our life. that no other thing can really do for us. Sometimes it is only art, great music, great poetry, great dance, great theater, whatever it is that can create those moments in our lives. So that brings me to kind of the larger point that I want to talk about today, and that is that as a society, it is crucial that we value the arts in a way that our society does not value the arts at the moment. And so I want to speak to you as civic-minded Rotarians, that you think about ways that you can advocate for the arts in our community and the larger world, because it's important. So I want to give you a little series of statistics to help get you thinking about how arts are important in education and in our civic life. Did you know students who have access to quality arts education are 5 times less likely to drop out of school than students who don't have arts education? They are 4 times more likely to be recognized for academic achievement. They're 3 times more likely to pursue a bachelor's degree. They're 30% more likely to pursue a professional career. Low-income students with access to arts education are 2 times as likely to graduate from college than their peers with no arts education. 72% of business leaders say that creativity is the #1 skill they seek when they're hiring new employees. When arts education is administered equitably, the gap between low-income and high-income students vanishes. Children who participate in the arts in school get better grades across the board. Students with access to arts education score an average of 150 points higher on the SAT. They are 3 times more likely to be elected to class office. Students with access to arts education score higher on literacy, writing, and English proficiency skills. Art education makes students significantly less likely to run into disciplinary issues. Adults who participate in the arts also volunteer significantly more frequently than the general public. Adults who participate in the arts show a significantly greater degree of civic leadership and engagement. And those are just a tiny fraction of the statistics out there for how arts education and participation in the arts impact people's lives. So music and the arts are not a luxury. They are not incidental. They are not extracurricular. They should not be optional. As a society, we are doomed if we don't prioritize the arts, and that is not an over-the-top statement. It's kind of a fact. Did you know that San Francisco School Board, under the leadership of 3 recent recalled members, just appropriated tens of millions of dollars of bond money that the voters approved for the arts and are using it for other things? A $100 million bond repurposed to support other things, money that was supposed to be used to create an arts campus for our School of the Arts and other things in arts related education. This happens all the time, all over the country. Money that is meant to go to the arts ends up getting repurposed because we decide that it's not a priority. Across America, citizens are asked to pay millions and sometimes billions of dollars to support construction and infrastructure for sports, from junior high all the way through professional sports venues. We fork over giant sums of money to make sure our athletes have state-of-the-art facilities and coaching staffs and equipment, none of which I have an issue with. So don't get me wrong, I'm not attacking sports. But meanwhile, a high school chorus director is told she can't hire an accompanist to perform with her students for a concert or a festival because there's no money in the budget for that. A high school band director has to tape and safety pin together worn out old instruments and uniforms year after year in order to cobble together supplies for his students. Old movie palaces are torn down or converted into luxury condos rather than repurposed as community arts venues. We do not prioritize the arts because we fail to see the value of the arts. The arts are often criticized for being elitist and out of touch with everyday people, but that's because we don't teach young people how to be informed consumers of the arts the way we teach them about team spirit and competition with organized sports. Social media and the culture of self-promotion has in many ways turned us into a more sociopathic society. The cure for that is the empathy that creating and viewing and participating in the arts creates. And the younger people get that, the better. In Europe, there is state funding for the arts, whereas in the US, arts organizations ranging from classical, performing arts, visual arts organizations of varying sizes and mission, we are all forced to rely on patronage for the bulk of funding, which puts arts organizations at the whim of both private donors and gifting institutions with their specific wants and priorities. Art should be a publicly funded resource the same way sports are. Our priorities define us, and it is clear that as a nation that spends half of its resources on defense and policing, but argues over an astonishingly minuscule annual budget for the arts, is not a society on the path to success. Did you know that arts funding makes up only 0.003% of our national budget, around $16 million for the entire country, our entire arts budget. To say that the arts are underfunded in America is like saying that Hershey's makes a little bit of chocolate, or that there's a little bit of corn in Iowa. We don't just need a little increase in our arts spending. We need a radical transformation of how we view the arts as an integral part of our society. We need to depoliticize the conversation around the arts and arts funding. We cannot let radical ideologues hijack the conversation any longer and continue to pigeonhole the arts and artists as peripheral or extreme. Remember that song or piece of music that is connected with an important moment in your life. Remember how much meaning and emotion that connection carries. And remember that that feeling wouldn't exist if an artist hadn't created the art. The arts are not optional. They are central to who we are and to our welfare as a society. They are central to creating empathetic and connected human beings. Thank you all. That is about what I wanted to say today, and I'm happy to take some questions or talk some more in the chat if we have a little time.
Thank you for the presentation. Please raise your hand if you have any questions. I already see some comments for you, Michael. Your talk could be an important TED Talk. Please raise your hand if you have any questions.
I've got a question.
Yes, go ahead.
What happens, we have this physical, when a person builds a building, they have to give 1%, in cases of a public building, 2% to the arts. It seems to me most of this goes to physical art, statues and what have you. Why can't it go for other activities, other art activities?
That's a good question. I'm actually unaware of that. Is that in San Francisco, you mean?
That's almost across the country, but every public building has to contribute 2% of the value of their building to the arts. And that's where you see all these art projects done. And a commercial building is 1%.
Ah, right. I was unaware of that. Well, I mean, I imagine, I'm not sure how that money is distributed, but perhaps some of it does go to performing arts or other arts. I don't know. But
I've never heard of it going to performing arts,
Yeah,
but it all, what I've seen, gone to light a bridge or put a playground in or one thing or another.
Right. All of which are good things. Public art is wonderful and important, but
Thank you, Jim. Other questions?
I want to go back. I would be making a pitch for that, those funds, if you follow me, to how can you get your share? There's no reason, your art is not well defined as the scope. And it seems to me there's an opportunity there.
Yeah, thank you. That's definitely something to look into.
Yeah.
So I'll add to this if I might. Yeah. So Jim, I think that the San Francisco Arts Commission decides about such things.
Right.
And I mean, I'm in favor of what you're saying, certainly, but it seems like that's probably the place to ask the question and perhaps pursue the spreading out of the types of arts that are then identified and built, or, you know, obviously different types of arts could be brought into the picture. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you, Emily, for sharing that with us. Bob Herman, you have your hand raised.
I'll lower my hand. I agree with what Jim was talking about with the certain percentage. I know UCSF and the Department of Public Health had to do a percentage of their new building to put in hard pieces of art. So I think it would be great to do the education, which leads me to my question. I know that organizations such as the Symphony, SF Jazz, including the Gay Men's Chorus, they have been going to schools and teaching music because the lack thereof in the school systems with music. And so how can we as a community encourage our politicians and our leaders? Because really at the end of the day, that's where it really stems toward is funding. And you are so correct, Michael, about the cuts to school programs and instruments. We belong to an organization that helps to provide instruments in the schools because the funding has been so severe. You are correct about patching instruments to use for education, which is heartbreaking. So what do you feel about that?
I think people just have to be willing to be advocates, and it has to, you know, like any publicly driven effort, there has to be energy around it. And there's an awful lot of noise to cut through in the world. I mean, for any issue to rise to the top on any given day, there's a lot of competing agendas out there. So I think so many things that end up being successful when it comes to trying to make transformative change happen because enough people with a certain voice and with a certain amount of clout sort of decide they're going to make it a priority. So, you know, if Dolly Parton decided she wanted to make it her #1 issue to advocate for arts education, we might see some movement, or someone like her, or a whole bunch of someones like her. But the rest of us, all we can really do is just try to bring it up when we can and encourage people to make it a priority.
Thank you, Michael. Tim Hornbecker, and then Rick. Tim, you're on mute. All right, Tim. I'm going to go to Rick Carroll. Rick, you have the floor.
Yeah, Michael, could you tell us about a concert that's coming up that you're involved with that might raise the musical spirits of some of our fellow Rotarians here?
Yes, I was going a little long. I was actually going to end with a pitch to come to our concert this Sunday. So yes, this coming Sunday at Calvary, we are doing a now 4 times rescheduled concert because of the pandemic, which is, it is directly about the time that our kind of nation and world has been living through for the last few years, with political upheaval and estrangement and the way people are living in silos, and particularly the way the pandemic separated us all and caused so much disruption. It is a concert that is about going through that experience and sort of doing some communal catharsis and grief and wrestling with issues, but then coming out on the other side with a lot of hope and some joy. So it's kind of a musical journey from grief to hope. And with some of the greatest music in the choral orchestral canon, excerpts from different things like the Mozart Requiem and the Brahms Requiem and the Dvorak Requiem, and some newer music, A Piece of My Own. Yeah, it's a great variety. We have a narrator who's doing some really fantastic poetry and literature, some excerpts that tie in with the music. So I think it's going to be a wonderful thing. 2:00 this Sunday at Calvary, and I could probably put a link here in the chat if any of you are interested in coming. So supporting your local arts organizations is probably the #1 thing you could do, the easiest thing you can do to put some muscle behind this argument.
I have a question for you, Michael, and then I'll go to you, Tim. I go to the arts, like I go pretty regularly to concerts. It's gotten very expensive to go out. Like I have a good income, I'm doing fine, I can pay the extra, but I think it dissuades people from going to certain concerts. Is there any organization or groups that are doing inexpensive concerts that might be good for new audiences? I know you just mentioned Calvary, but are there any others?
I think there is actually way more art that is affordable than there is that's not.
Okay.
The problem is a lot of what gets pushed to the fore is what gets advertised. So, you know, go see SF Broadway, a Broadway touring show. Well, of course, that's crazy expensive. And but even like the opera, which has very expensive tickets, also has very affordable tickets. And the symphony has very affordable tickets. I mean, you can go to the symphony for $25 and sure, you'll be sitting way in the back, but you're there and you can hear just fine. And then there are lots of local arts organizations like smaller theater companies and community choirs and orchestras that sometimes have lots of free concerts or things for much less money than the larger things. So there are lots of easy ways, I think, to get involved and to go see things and support groups. It's just the big ticket items are more expensive, like everything in the world. So.
Well, thank you, Michael. And I love Opera in the Park. That's one of my favorite events.
Oh, yeah, it's a good one.
All right, Tim Hornbecker, you have the floor.
Thank you. I just wanted to share that, I mean, I totally agree with Michael. And my daughter plays, my granddaughter, excuse me, first trumpet in her middle school band, and she's a straight A student. And then as a former football player in college, my stepdaughter was in the marching band at the University of Oregon, and she taught me that football is what happens before and after the band plays.
Yes, that's
true. Music is so important.
That's fun. Lynn Luca, you have the floor.
Anyone who has any influence here for grants for the arts, some very sad things happened this year. Two organizations I'm very close to. Chanticleer was cut without warning from $124,000 a year to $38,000. That's really hard to take for an arts organization. Smuin Contemporary Ballet was cut from $158,000 to $30,000. Again, these were without warning. And from what I can gather, there's a new advisory group for grants for the arts. So if we have any connections, we should try and influence. These are, you know, if you're going to cut, it's really important that organizations get probably a year's warning to try and compensate.
Yeah, the London Breed appointed a new administrator for the city's grants arts program, who then announced that she was following a new set of priorities, which was to be about providing grants to emerging artists, especially artists of color and from underserved communities, all of which is great. Like, yes, let's do that. but we should be adding to that funding, not making cuts from who's getting funded. All of these arts groups need funding. They can't, ticket sales never, ever, ever pay for what it costs to put on great art. It has to be funded. There's no other way it can exist. So yeah, it's a shame the way they've been administering those.
All right. John Hoke, you have a question.
I don't have a question, but I want to say that, on Sundays at Golden Gate Park, they have concerts.
Mhm.
And it's a great free musical event. And I think that anyone that lives in the Bay Area should take advantage of that. What are your comments?
Oh, definitely. Absolutely.
Thank you. Andres, you have your hand raised. Question?
Yes. Hi, Michael. I don't know if we've worked together or not. I'm a cellist in Quartet San Francisco and in the Bay Area. It's nice to meet you. I feel like I have worked with you, but maybe I've worked with someone that looks like you. Or and has your same name.
We're Facebook friends. I know that.
Facebook friends. Okay. But here's my question. Calvary, how do you encourage your community there to be more generous with donations to the arts in general, or to your program, let's say? How is that facilitated?
One thing, it sounds so like a curt answer, but I think it's actually true. It's really about asking. And I think one of the reasons that arts tends to be underfunded is because a lot of times there aren't people out there who are asking. We have a lot of money in the Bay Area, and a lot of that money these days has been getting funneled into like scientific research or into like hospitals or other kinds of places that need support from donations. And part of that is just because there aren't necessarily connections between the people that have the money and the people that are looking for it in the arts community. So a lot of times it's just about asking. When we needed to get new pianos at Calvary because we had a very aging group of old pianos that were, many of which just were ready to go to the junk heap. And I spent 2 years just going around asking people to make donations specifically so that we could raise money to replace some of our unusable pianos. And the money came because I asked, and I made the reasons why we wanted and needed new pianos clear, and people found the money. So I think sometimes it's just about finding people who can find the time and make the connections to get out there and ask people for it. The money is there. We have to figure out how to funnel it in different ways.
All right. Well, thank you, Michael, and thank you for joining us today. It is now 1:30. Time goes by very quickly. You were great on Zoom. I think you can definitely do more Zoom presentations. You felt very connected to the entire audience, and everyone stayed the entire time. As many of you know, polio is very important to Rotary. Sorry, I just became a ghost, everyone. I'm still here. I blame the storm. But polio is very important to Rotary. And in your honor, 100 children will be inoculated against polio. So again, thank you for joining us. And if you'd like to come to a lunch in person one day, just send me an email. I'd love to have you as my guest.
Thank you.
It's Tuesday. It's 1:31. Continue to do great things in the world. If Michael or anyone else would like to stay on for additional fellowship, I'll keep the room open for 15 more minutes.
I put in the link, Michael, for you from the Calvary.
Oh, thank you. And I also put in a link for the other site, calpres.ludus. Yeah.
Thank you, Michael.
Sorry, everyone. I actually can't stay to talk because I'm already 30 minutes late for another Zoom meeting.
Bye, Michael.
Thank you. But thank you so much for having me.
We'll see you Sunday when we just signed up.
Fantastic. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, wish I could stay too, but I have another Zoom to jump on. So bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.